Hi guys, I have sort of been away for a while. I have put out a couple recent videos on just some basic projects that I've been playing around on, but that aside, you'll notice that I kind of went quiet for a bit there. To put bluntly, I was diagnosed with cancer. It was pretty bad. It was like stage 3. It was pretty intense. Wasn't looking good at first, but I'm, if anything, very stubborn, and I have beaten it. So I went through treatment, all that stuff. I survived it. I am now in remission. I'm clear. So I'm going to get back to it. We're going to go back to our tutorials and all this stuff because I think it's important. And it's time to keep going in life, right? So I was doing my Dev 101 videos and I was going to just jump back into that. But somebody actually brought up something on a Discord I'm in. And I thought it was a really interesting subject that I don't really see, I guess you could say, like properly covered. And I wanted to make a video addressing that, which is very much a Dev 101 video, but it's very specific, and I'll walk you through it. And the whole concept is to optimize mechanics from the ground up. So let's say you have an idea. Your idea is I want to shoot another character with my gun and do damage, right? Pretty basic stuff. Well, from the very start, when you have that idea, excuse me, you need to think about kind of the scope of that idea, how it is implemented, and how you can optimize it the best way possible for your game. And you do this with everything. All of your mechanics, all of your concepts, everything you do in that game, you need to run through this. So the first thing you really want to ask is this action replicated? Is the game multiplayer? Because nearly everything done in multiplayer is done differently than in single player. So you don't want to decide to add multiplayer to your game later. It's not going to work, and you're just going to be rebuilding it completely from the ground up, right? Which nobody wants to deal with. So always think about that first. Do not decide later that you want to add multiplayer because you will be rebuilding that project. It's also going to take a lot more time if you do multiplayer, and there are now real security risks to be aware of, such as players being hacked and things like that. So if you want to go with, multiplayer stuff, be very serious about your considerations for that. And if you're new to game dev, just don't do it. It's not worth the process of trying to learn the basics as well as how to do networking securely, and how to server testing and stuff like that. Not to mention the costs of a packet exchange over a server. It just goes crazy. So anyway, let's say that we've decided we're going to make a single player game because we are smart. Um, and we're doing this whole I want to, shoot another character with my gun and do damage. So, what do I think I want to do, right? When I just think about that off the top of my head, what does that entail to me? I push a button to shoot the gun. The gun spawns a bullet. The bullet flies rapidly through the air and it hits the target. But what does this actually entail as far as what I'm implementing mechanically through my code into this game? Well, I need to get player input. I need to spawn a bullet actor that has data on it. And then extremely rapidly, I need to constantly do collision checks with a real chance of this failing as my bullet whizzes through the air at insane speeds in actual gameplay. The bullet actor then tells the enemy hey, I've hit you. It says how much damage it's done, what type, if anything, where it's hitting, is it spawning a decal like blood or a hole, and then the bullet is destroying itself. And it's doing all of this within the fraction of a second, within literally maybe a couple ticks at most. It's very, very rapid. Your chance of losing information in the midst of all this, or even causing something like a lag because it's suddenly rapidly processing something really, really, really fast, is not small. And while your CPU and all these things can process information incredibly fast, and a lot of it has to happen on the game's tick loop. So every game runs on a loop, right? Every game engine basically runs a really, really fancy loop. Every single one of them. And Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot, RPG Maker, they all run a loop. And every tick is that whole entire game process looping one cycle. That's a tick, right? So every tick is how many things am I processing? Well, I'm processing foliage moving with the wind. Am I processing a creature that's walking? Am I processing my character's velocity? Am I processing animations? I mean, some of these are on CPU, some of these are on your GPU, but what am all my? I'm doing a lot. And on top of that, if I'm spawning bullets in real time, spawning an actor in real time is actually pretty heavy, versus just having it there. So let's say I'm using a shotgun. Okay, like maybe it's just one big burst. Maybe I'm using a pistol and doing one round. What if I want to do a machine gun later or something like that, where it's shooting a bunch of bullets? That's gonna kill my frame rate. That's absolutely gonna kill it. And even if it doesn't, it's if I stack other things happening on top of that. Well, now I'm spraying bullets with my machine gun, and I've also got a grenade going off over here, and there's explosions, and there's a bunch of NPCs running around. It starts to stack. It starts to get heavy, and that's when you start getting frame rate drops. You're halfway through your project, and you realize you screwed up at the very, very start. It is probably the moment that most indie devs that are especially new to it, like baby devs, when they quit. They spend 6 months on a project. They make these mistakes at the foundational level. They think it's okay because everything seems fine now. And then it continues and it builds and it builds. And now you have something that doesn't work. And the only way to fix it is to completely remake it. So that's why you always want to optimize from the ground up. Everything. So let's go back to where we were. We have this weapon, it's shooting a bullet. We want to spawn a bullet, we need to do damage. Well, let's reel that back again. Do we actually need to spawn a bullet? Do we need to actually physically see a bullet flying out of the muzzle of your weapon into the air to do impact or something? Well, what are the chances of that actually happening in real life? It's zero. It doesn't happen. As somebody who's been served in the military and has fired a lot of weapons, you're not going to see the bullet. You might see a muzzle flash. You might see a hole that goes into whatever you're aiming at or close to what you're aiming at, but you're not going to actually see a bullet flying through the air. It's completely unnecessary. So we don't need to actually spawn a bullet actor. Instead, we can do something that's called a line trace. A line trace is much, much, much cheaper. They're extremely cheap, and they are going to be very, very accurate. So all that does is it draws an invisible line from the muzzle of your weapon to wherever your target is, however long that range is, say like, I don't know, 1,200 meters or whatever the heck or something like that. But you want to draw that line, and then wherever it detects a hit, you just spawn damage. And the rest of it's smoke and mirrors. And this is what AAA studios do. It's smoke and mirrors. You do a little flash particle effect on the muzzle. It does that where it looks like it's done a shot. You've got maybe an animation that shows the weapon jerking back a little bit for recoil, and then you might have a hole or gore or blood splatter or whatever the heck you want to do spawn where the hit was, but you never actually physically make a bullet. You don't need to. And what we're going to instead do is we're going to do that line trace, and we're going to have an actor component on our character. You can have it on the character or you can have it on the weapon, but I prefer to have it on the character because you'll see why. It's much more easy to organize, and it's very, very easy to add to and build on and make changes on the fly, and it's just really, really nice. So we're going to make a weapon actor component for doing damages, for swapping out our weapons, all that stuff. And we're going to do show you how to do that line trace, maybe spoof it up a little bit so it looks kind of cool, and then go from there. Alright, so you'll notice here I have an enum, right? And this is just it's an enumeration, which is basically a very, very, very tiny bit of data. It's literally just bytes, you guys, that I can store information on. And if you want to know how to do this, and again, you could do this for any kind of engine. I'm doing it in Unreal because that's what I use. But the logic is something that you can do in any kind of game engine. So for Unreal, you just right click, you go to Blueprint, you select enumeration, click on that, name it. I named mine eWeapons. E underscore is a kind of basic expected format for when you're doing enumerations. So open that up, and you see I've added none here, which basically means I'm not equipping anything. Rifle, pistol, shotgun. So I'm going to be able to switch between all of these, including the empty one, and my data will update, my weapon will update, and the type of damage I'm doing will update based on that, and I never have to hard code that variable in. I never have to hard code that information in. And again, if you just want to add an enumeration, you just click on here, add whatever it is here. If you want to delete it, go there. You can add little notes here too in relation to it if you want, like if you want to remind yourself of something so that when you hover over that enum in-game, it'll pop up with that information. But this should do for now. So then I have, let's see here. I've got all my stuff I was working with. So this is a project I've been working on a little bit, not a whole lot honestly, but it's a very, very massive world. I've been kind of testing performance and stuff. And it's going to be a little bit heavy, probably for that reason, but this is what I have right now. This is what we're going to use. I have this blueprint actor here, which is a ranged weapon. It's just a blueprint actor. So, you know, right click, go to blueprint. You just do blueprint class, and then or blueprint class, and it's actor. That one right there. And then if I open this up, now this is just one of my weapons, so that I can pick up, right? So I have the mesh here, which is just from the first-person shooter asset stuff. I just added that in there. If you go to your main thing, if you go to, you right-click and you do, oh no, actually over here, add. And then do add feature content. You could add, if you go to first person, you can get that gun. And then I just delete everything else. I just took the gun out because I wanted the gun mesh. Okay, so if I go into my character blueprint here, my main character blueprint, right? This guy. If I go into my event graph, I can right click and I can just do, well here I have left mouse button, you just do left mouse button, left mouse button. You would want to set up proper inputs for this, but I'm just working you through this here. I can show you how to do proper inputs if I do an equipment system. If you want me to do a very basic equipment system, I can do that. Again, I'm not doing a step-by-step follow me tutorial thing. You can follow me through these steps, but the point is to teach you how to do stuff yourself. So it's not going to be a blind follow me. But so I have my left mouse button here, and I want to do a line trace, right? So I want to do it from my weapon actor. So let's say, for the simplicity of things, let's just add a new skeletal mesh here, okay? And we will call this SKM for skeletal mesh weapon. Down here, we will assign that to gun. And you can see it here. Now for me, I added a socket onto this character's mesh. So if I open him up, and you look down here, down this list, I made a socket. So you just right click on this, add socket. I named it weapon left. And then if I go up into my animations here, and if you don't have a like a shooting animation, look up the animation starter pack on Unreal/Fab Market, whatever it is these days. It's free, I believe, and you can just import it in. So I'm literally just borrowing those animations right now. So let's do the idle iron sights. And the reason why we're setting up an animation here is because it'll help us line up our weapons. So then we pause it, and you see I've already lined it up. So if I take my socket here, this weapon left socket, hit W, I can move it around wherever I want it to be. I can hit E to rotate it, and R to scale it, which you don't want to do. So once you have this rotated and set up where you want within this animation, by the way, if you don't see the weapon here, just right click on the weapon socket, do add preview asset, type in gun, and then just click it and it'll add it to the asset. It'll just add it here. This won't show up in game. This is just giving you a preview here, so don't worry about that. But once you have this how you want it, go back to your character, go to the mesh here, and then where it says parent socket here, open that up and just do weapon left. That's the one I added. And then make sure that you clear location or anything like that. So now, if I go into animation blueprint, go to asset here, or not asset, but I think it is just blueprint, yeah. Oh no, that's because it's the weapon. Ignore me. Go to the mesh. Go to asset. Go to iron. Let's go to idle rifle iron sights. There you go. So now I have the actual weapon mesh here, right? So that's showing. Now let's take that and let's go. So if we grab that, this weapon mesh, back to where our left mouse button was, we get that, right click, convert to validated get. Connect to the pressed. So this is basically checking, is there anything stored in here? Is there anything in this weapon mesh? Is there actually a mesh there? If there's no mesh there, if it's just empty, which I would just, if I want it to be empty, I could just hit that and see now there's none, there's empty. If I wanted to not have equipped anything, well, if I'm doing left mouse, obviously I don't want it to fire if I'm not holding anything. So this just checks am I actually holding a weapon, right? If I am holding a weapon, then what we're going to do is we're going to see which weapon it is, right? And this is where this component comes into play. Now, we can't hard code this data, this function, this weapon, and all this stuff into our character. That would make it very, quick and easy. But exchanging that out later will be absolute hell. And what if I wanted a gun turret and I just wanted to be able to slap something onto it that has weapon data, where I can just fire stuff off of it and not have to code all that into the turret itself? Or what if I wanted to make different types of characters that have different types of weapons and I just wanted to slap a weapon component on it and it's good to go? That's why we want to have components, because they're very, very versatile. So this is what I'm talking about, having really good optimization and really good workflow. You don't want to hard code things into your character if you can't afford not to. So I'm going to go in here into this folder I have. You can put this anywhere. I would at least suggest a weapon folder. Again, this is where I have my weapons at. This enum here. And I am going to... So this is just my pickup. Don't worry about that. That's just my pickup. That disappears. That'll disappear whenever I equip it, right? So then I'm going to do a blueprint class. And I'm going to do actor component. As you can see, it is a component that you can add to other actors like our character. So let's do... let's see, actor component. BP underscore AC for actor component. And then we'll do weapon. Save that. And then we're going to immediately, before we even mess with this, going to go to our character here. And making sure we have the root selected. Add. Let's do BPAC. There we go. Okay. Right there. Okay. So, BPAC weapon, that's our actor component here. And now this is, as you can see, I also have my gathering one. Don't worry about that. And then we take this. I'm going to drop it and we're going to save this. So this is, again, our character. So now we're going to actually go and open that up. So let's go to the actor component. We're going to add some variables. So the first one we're going to add is, and if you have like a bunch of variables that aren't going to change much or anything like that, you would probably want to use a struct rather than doing it this. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it right. Let's do it the right way. We do things the right way around here. Let's take that. Let's delete that. Let's make a struct really quick. Right click. We're going to go to blueprints. We're going to go to structure. So a struct is a blurb of data that follows a structured outline that you can fill in and populate basically anywhere. And it's very, very useful. Let's say if I have 6 types of weapons, right? And each type of weapon has a variable called bullet type. And each type of weapon has a variable called damage amount. So since they all share this variable type, I can make a struct that holds those and then just really quickly populate it. And it keeps it very organized, and it's really great to pass around. So let's name this F. I can't remember why structs start with F, but they do, and I can't remember, and I'm sure somebody will know. But that's the common phrase for that. So F underscore weapon data. Let's do that. Right? Open that struct up, and this is where we start putting variables. So it'll start with this. Let's just change this to weapon name. We'll make that a enum. Actually, there we go, of our weapons type, right? And that means, because we made this, that means that once we make this, the only options it's going to give us are the ones we set. So you won't be able to just throw in a random name, which it makes it much more organized. Plus, if I made this a string or something like that where you could type it in, it's actually a lot more data. And enum is a very, very, very tiny amount of data. It's basically a 0, 1, 2, 3 kind of deal. So keep that in mind, that if you can use enums, absolutely go for it. They're fantastic. And then let's just do damage amount. We'll make that a float. And then let's see, weapon mesh. For this, we will do a skeletal mesh, and we're going to actually do soft object reference. So actually, no, let's do soft class reference. The reason why we're doing soft references instead of hard references, where I could just do the regular reference or even just actual mesh, is because it's not loading it into the game unless I tell it to, right? That's what a soft reference is. So if I just do the hard reference with like a regular skeletal mesh object reference or even a class reference, it's actually going to load that information into the game even if there's not an object in the game. It's going to load that, which will very rapidly take up a crap ton of memory and space, and it just sucks. So again, we're going optimization from the ground up. So we're going to do soft references because they don't load anything unless they specifically tell it to. It's just a reference of where this thing is. Okay? So we've got weapon mesh. We've got damage amount, weapon name, and then maybe let's see what else. Let's do, if it does a type of particle effect. So let's see. We could do like a muzzle flash, but let's just do, yeah, sure, let's do muzzle flash. Or, let's do fire effect. We'll call it that, fire effect. For this, we want to do a Niagara system because everybody uses Niagara now, not Cascade anymore. And again, let's do a soft class reference. Or am I doing soft class, soft object reference? Soft object reference, okay. So we'll save that. Alright, so these are, and then we go over here to default values. You see here, if I choose weapon name, since I have an enum here, I can pick one. We want to default to none. And then, you know, I would have some kind of particle effect I would generally do. But this information is going to be stored on all of our weapons. They will all have this. And you can add more and go to town, that's fine. If these are any variables that you plan to actually change very often in the game, like, you know, like kind of frequently, you don't want to store them on a struct. You actually want them to be their own variables because a struct can get heavy to pull a lot if you're doing that, or rather to update. But for things like this, which we're not really expecting to change much, if at all, struct is the way to go. So we're doing things the right way. So over here, back in our weapon component, add a variable, F underscore, oh no, actually we don't need that underscore, but we'll just do weapon data. And then here, F underscore weapon data. And then this, we don't need to set it because it's already, if you look at the default values, this is already what it is. But we do want to be able to change it, and we want to be able to change it from whoever our owning character class is. So let's do a function where we will toggle what type of weapon we're doing. So we're going to, let's say if I'm in my character, so I've got my left mouse button here where I'm going to basically, you know, pull the trigger and shoot the weapon, and I need to know what kind of weapon it is. So first let's get the actual data from that. So we'll get weapon data, and then we're going to do, and we'll go get into how to swap this out in a minute. First, let's just make it fire. So let's do, if it's valid, let's do a line trace by channel. We could do for line trace for object types as well, but let's do channel because it's just anything visible that we hit, right? You can also add, so you see I have interact here, you can add trace channels, so you might want to add like a hit channel or something that specifically the bullets only hit certain things or whatever, but that's up to you. And then we're going to do a little math here. It's very simple, and this math is something you will do a lot. It might look vaguely complicated at first, but if you dev at all, you're going to do this line trace a lot in your life. So we're going to start with, we're going to get our, let's see, we want to draw the trace from the muzzle of the weapon, right? We don't want to draw it from just anywhere. We want to draw it either, well, for first person from the muzzle. But really, if we think about it, I suppose we want to draw it from the muzzle to wherever our camera's reticle is, because we do have a reticle. So if I play this, and it's literally just a piece of text in a HUD. It's like I think a plus sign. Yeah, it's plus sign. See that? So that plus sign is my reticle, and I am in a third-person character, so this isn't probably the best way to go about it. You don't want the, mind you, he's not running or walking because we have a static animation set, but you want to make this kind of where he's aiming, so you want to zoom it in a little bit, like over the shoulder or something, which we can do if I just take my camera here and my boom, and I just zoom this in a little bit. Where's my spring? Oh, there we go. Where's my spring arm? I take this, zoom it in, and then bring it down a bit. I'm going to take that and just kind of, let's turn on my rotational snapping, like right there, maybe over the shoulder a little bit to the side. Let's see how that looks. There we go. I mean, granted, my controls aren't what you would expect, what you would normally have because of the type of gameplay I have set up for this, but in general, let's say that I wanted to shoot like right where that reticle is, okay? And if you guys want, I can show you how to set up proper targeting and stuff too, because mine isn't set up for that. Mine is set up for more like an open world game kind of RPG camera setup. But let's go back to our, okay, so weapon data character. Let's go back to our character, event graph. Okay, so we want to draw it from the muzzle. So let's get the weapon mesh, right? Actually, we already have the weapon mesh, so let's just take this. And we're going to draw it from this. Get forward vector, which means the direction it is facing forward, right? That's all it is, XYZ direction that's facing forward. And we're also going to get actor, oh, not actor, but get world location. If you want to do this from the reticle itself, you actually want to get the camera. So get the camera because it'll get the center point of where the camera is looking. So you want to go to the world location of the mesh, and then the forward vector of the camera. So it's going to basically draw. So wherever the middle section of this camera is, think about that. So it's going to draw from this muzzle towards forward, towards where the center of where the camera is looking. So it should aim for your reticle pretty well. You might need to tweak it a little bit with an offset, but most likely won't need to. And again, that's not what we're covering right now, and I don't want this to be too long because it's already going to be really long anyways. So let's do plus. So we want the world location of this, plus how this looking forward. And this is just going to give us like the very start, like right up front on this weapon. We also, that's the start of the line trace. We also want to kind of go forward a bit, obviously. Like how far out do we want to do this line trace to, right? So let's take this and we're going to multiply this by a pretty good sized number because it's a bullet and could go pretty far. So let's go for let's go for like 3,000, right? And that's our end. Actually, this. Copy that. Plus that forward vector. So these guys together, so forward vector times this plus world location is the end one. Start is just forward in the world location of these two. So I know this might look complicated, but I guarantee you will do this a lot if you use Unreal Engine especially, and basically ever make any sort of game ever. This is going to happen a lot. This is how you do the line trace. So we're going to do draw debug so that we can visually see the line trace. When you don't want to have it, turn it off. We're going to do it for duration. And then actors to ignore is self-explanatory. It's basically I don't want to line trace and hit myself, right? Or my weapon or my character or anything like that. So actors to ignore. We're going to make an array. Oops. Make an array here. It will already include, by default, the character. So ignore self, which is the character. That will already be ignored. But that said, I do like to sort of make an array of my own. The actor components shouldn't be getting hit by it. You shouldn't have to worry about that. That should just pass on. But for this array, you would just add, like let's say you had, some kind of floating transparent hologram thing in front of you and you want to be able to shoot through it or whatever. Or maybe you have some kind of 3D widget or something that you don't want to hit, that you wanted to just ignore and pass through. So this is where you would make an array here. We don't need it right now because we don't have anything that should be hitting by it. But that's how you do that. We don't need to trace complex because we're just doing basic simple collision. And then we're going to do a check. So I'm going to line trace out. Do I hit anything? If I shoot out a line trace, am I detecting anything? Am I hitting an enemy? What's going on? If I do hit something, I need to figure out what I hit. So if I take this out hit, this is a struct full of a bunch of information. We don't need all of it. We just need a little bit. So we're going to break that so we can access all the stuff inside and open it up. Big old list of junk. Almost everything here we don't care about. What we do care about is what did we hit, right? Did we hit anything, and can we hurt the thing we hit? So if we want to know if we can hurt the thing we hit, we could cast and check if it's another character. But if we're doing that, now we're basically loading every character in the game just for this check, because it does a how do I put it? It does an inheritance thing where it basically pulls up anything connected to it. So casting like this, probably not a good idea. What I can do is use an interface, and an interface won't have to do any casting, and it will use way less resources. So an interface is more optimized, and an interface can just be added to anything and everything. So if I look here, I already have some interfaces here. For an interface, let's do one that's just specifically, is it something that I can hit, right? So then, go to blueprints, go to blueprint interface, BPI for blueprint interface, target, let's do, damageable. That's a word now. Probably. I don't know. That's the word now. Don't judge me, okay? I'm not good at this stuff. So then I go to my interfaces, and I go to class settings, I go to add, BPI underscore damageable. Now I have that interface. I don't need to add anything to it if I don't want to, but I can. I already have a bunch on my character, but you can use that on yours if you want. So I go to hit actor. I go to pull off of that. Is the thing that I have hit with my line trace. Does implement interface. Does it have an interface? BPI damageable. Now I could add this to anything. If I want it to be a wall that I can shoot down, I just throw the interface on it, bam, it shows up. It'll check it, it'll detect it, and this will only give me a response back specifically on things that have that interface on it. Really, really nice. If it does indeed have that interface on it, well, we know that we want to do damage to this thing, right? So let's take this, hit actor again, and we're going to promote that. Well, actually, hit actor is a good one. So let's just do hit actor. That's a good name. I like that. There we go. And we're going to save that. Okay. So let's actually make use of this interface, huh? And let's take, so let's say that I want to hit another character of this class that I'm in. I'm in the master character class, right? Another character. In which we can do inheritance later, which is really fun, and I can teach you inheritance because your inheritance is great, and it will save you so much time programming, it's stupid. So let's do a function in here. We will call it take damage. So let's open up that damage BPI. So this is our interface that we just made. This is what it looks like. It'll give us a new function off the bat. Right click that, rename it. Because it's an interface function, which helps us keep organized and clean, I underscore take damage. Enter. And from this, we're going to do an input. So if you scroll down here to inputs, we're going to just do that enum. We're going to pass just that enum through. That's it. That's all we want to do. So damage type. Or struct, I'm sorry. The struct. F underscore weapon data. Well, I'll just call it, actually, it's in damage type since we have that in the weapon data. Let's just call it weapon data. Weapon data. Right? That's going to pass through, hit compile, and save. So, if I go back to my character here, now, I can just do take damage, and I can call that interface. And I can call this interface on anything. It doesn't have to be a character function. That's the great thing about interfaces. It is universal. I could put this function on a character, a wall, literally anything, and I can call it from there, and I never have to cast to a damn thing, which saves you so much on, again, frame rate, resources, tons of crap. Tons of crap. Time, data, literally you name it. And then for weapon data, I am going to take my weapon here. Oh, drag that over. So again, my weapon component, my actor component, my weapon thing, I'm going to take that data that I had on there and just plug that in. Right? So let's save that. So we've got this where this should basically do everything we need to do. It shoots a bullet and it draws, it draws a line. There's no bullet being spawned. It draws a line and it does the weapon data stuff. Another thing that we could do at the beginning of this, if this is, active and whatnot and before we even get our hit result here, because we are doing a line trace, so we're doing a hit result, but before we actually even do this, we could do like a muzzle flash, right? So again, we want to make sure, and now that I am kind of pulling this apart a little bit, I'm actually going to plug that in by itself so it doesn't have this long line. I don't like doing that. So let's just take that and just plug it in directly right there. But we still want to make sure it's valid, right? So if we take, let's just copy this, Control C, Control V, take that weapon data, break it, and then what we're going to do, we could play this particle effect right? So we're gonna go load asset. We can do load asset blocking or async. Async is safer. So we're gonna go with async, and it's just cleaner. So we're gonna do a sequence here. Let's do a sequence. And let's actually do the... So when a bullet fires, that's already left the chamber, leaving the chamber is what causes that flash. So let's actually do the bullet firing first, which is this line trace here. And then the second thing we're gonna do is showing that flash. So we're gonna do an async load of this soft reference here. And then we're going to take this, and this will give us just an object. It doesn't know what type it is, so we need to cast at that point to specifically what this is. This is where we do the casting, so that this thing is, again, only loaded when we are telling it here to load. We never load it otherwise. That's why soft references are fantastic. And we know it is a Niagara system object reference, because this is a soft reference of exactly that. So, Niagara system... Cast Niagara system. We're going to check if that's valid just to be safe. Is valid. And then we are going to spawn system. We don't even need to really keep it. We could just spawn it and let it destroy itself. Because if we set it to auto destroy, it'll destroy itself when it's done. We're spawning the system at location. And that location... So it's going to be our weapon. We don't really want the weapon itself, though. We actually want the flash to come from the muzzle of the weapon. There's two things we can do with that muzzle of the weapon. So let's actually go back to the skeletal mesh, double click on it here, and let's add another socket here. And this is going to be kind of cool. So, or actually it has, okay, it comes with a socket. Okay, so that says muzzle. This comes with a socket. If you don't have one, just add it the same way we did with the character. But, so we know it's called muzzle. So, what we want to do is get our weapon mesh, get socket location, muzzle, because now we know what that's called, and we put that in there, and it's going to spawn that system at the muzzle of the weapon, right? And then another cool thing, now that we know where that socket location is, check this out. If you copy this, get the socket location, go over here where we did our line trace. Now it is specifically going to start that line trace from the actual muzzle of the weapon. So it is perfectly lined up, right? So now we have it to where it will do a line trace, it'll shoot it. It's going to tell whoever it shot, hey, take damage. It's just going to pass this information on. And then it's also going to pull this information and do the particle effect. And the cool thing with this function now, this whole function from left mouse button, it is completely agnostic towards what type of weapon you are using. It will always work. All you need to do is fill in whatever is in this struct. Nothing here is hard-coded. Nothing. You might, at the very most, what you could do is if you want the distance to actually matter, you could take this struct that we have. Where is it? This struct, and just do add another variable and call this distance. And mind you, if you add a variable on a struct after you've already used the struct, you're gonna have to go and refresh those nodes, or it will complain when you build it. At least if you build a shipping build, I can't remember if it does it for regular builds, but let's say that to float. But you want to go in and refresh anything that has it, so try to make sure you get all of your struct data set ahead of time. See how here it's telling me to recompile now, that because I'm using that here in my BPI. So yeah, make sure that you do that. Recompile, save, and then go back into my master and just save that. So now what I can even do here is, again, if I take this information, again, nothing here is hardcore, not a darn thing. If I break that, I can take the distance, plug it in there, and then if I click over here where I have the weapon data selected, I hit hide unconnected, kind of cleans it up for you a little bit there, makes it nice and organized. So now literally nothing here is hard-coded. You could use this for every single ranged weapon that you have. You can do this. You can give them all unique flashes. You can give them unique damage. You can give them unique range. You can make the mesh different. I mean, you can whatever you want. For assigning the mesh, what you would do is when you did your equipping, you would just take that information out of that weapon data, and you would assign it to the skeletal mesh. But we can do another video if we want for that. This is gonna be a long one, you guys. So, um, but yeah, so that's what we're doing. And then for let's say let's do some basic information. So we can change this if you're re-equipping, but for right now, I'm gonna go up to my where's my begin play? My begin play over here. And if you could just wherever your begin plays, you don't have to worry about this if you want to have it or not have it or whatever, that's fine. But at your begin play, you want to get your AC weapon. You want to set weapon data. And actually, you know what? Let's not even do it. Well, yeah, okay, we can do it here, but we can also do it. You know, let's do this right. Let's do this directly from the actor component itself. So let's go into the actor component here. Let's do a function. New function. Set weapon type. Let's do a set weapon type input. We'll give it an enum again. Weapon type. We're going to E weapons. And from this is cool dealing with enums as well. We can do a switch on weapon. And there you go. I can trade it to any of these. So let's say I want it to be a rifle. And a cool thing you would generally want to do with this too is you want to use it like pulling from a database. So let's do actually yeah, let's do it. I mean, this is gonna be such a long video, but my god, it's gonna cover everything and it's gonna do it right. So why not? So I have a struct, right? If I have a struct, I can add a database to it too, which is super cool that I can use with that. So if I go into miscellaneous here, data table, click on that, do this drop down here, I can type in my struct. F weapon data right there. See that? Hit OK. And then we'll call DT for data table weapon data. I like it to match the same name as the struct that it's coming from. So if I open this up, check this out. So I could add a new one here, right? New row. We'll call this rifle. Call this pistol. And call this shotgun. Set that to shotgun. Let's say it does 10 damage. Weapon mesh. Well, we've only got one. Oh, I need to change that type. Soft object reference. Change it to that. Soft object reference, my bad. This will probably need to be a soft object reference too. There we go. Okay. Soft object reference, which is basically the same thing. So as long as it's soft, that's what matters. Okay, and then that should give me gun. Gun. I don't have a gun for mesh for each one of these, so they're all going to share the same thing. And then we'll just do stars, why not? And then distance for shotgun we'll say is like 2,000. Oops. Not 200, 2,000. For the pistol, set it to pistol, damage amount, let's say 5. We will set that also to gun because that's all we have. Fire effect, I don't really have a lot, so let's just do the same thing. I don't know. Stars. Copy. Distance 2,500, and then let's do rifle at like 3,000. Stars, gun, we'll do, I don't know, 5 as well, I guess. And rifle. So there we go. So now it says row name. That matters. Row name matters. There's a reason we're doing it like that. Because if you go back to this, I can now do get data table row. Get rid of that. Drag that into there. That will turn that enum into a name, and now it will find that enum and spit out information from that data table, which we can then use to set the weapon data. So every time I call set weapon type, all I need to do is put in an enum there. It'll find the data from that data table. And the cool thing here, anybody can go into this data table, add new stuff, change stuff out, and it will always update so that when I call and I use that weapon, I swap to that weapon, whatever's in here, it will grab. This is super easy to add to. You can compare data on it. You could literally import, Excel sheet files, you know what I'm talking about? Those things, I forget the term for it, but there's the type of term. You can import basically, I think, like CSV files. You could import them into here. Like literally, you could export this out. You could do an import and an export. You could have it so your game designer doesn't ever touch your code and break stuff, and instead just messes with these values and has a good old fun time. They never have to touch anything else. So this is fantastic for that. It's easy stored information. It makes everything else extremely easy to work with, because now all of your functionality for firing this weapon is very, very universal. Nothing here is hard-coded. It's all super, super universal. So back to where we were. For this, what we're actually going to do is now we're going to just take the AC weapon. We are going to call set weapon type, and we're going to assign it to a rifle at the start, or whatever the heck you want to assign it to. And then every time we switch your weapon out, you literally call this function, and it'll do everything, all the work for you. It'll be magical, and it'll do everything for you. We can even have it to where back in the AC weapon set weapon type, you could even take it and say get the owner. So let's see, let's have a variable here for owner player. We set that to our character master. We will make it editable, expose it on spawn. Actually, I don't think we need to expose it on spawn. Let's just take this, begin play, move this over a wee bit. Instead, we will get this guy, and we will set owner player to ourself. Set owner player to ourself here. Again, this is at our begin play for the character. And then what you can do is you can take in the AC weapon where it says weapon type, if you get your owner player, get the weapon mesh, get the weapon mesh, oops, set skeletal mesh asset. And then you can literally just take that weapon data that you have here that you just set, break it, and then remember our load, so load asset blocking. You can do, again, you could do the load sync, or you could do the regular load, and then cast that to. So we know, again, based on, we just hover over here, skeletal mesh object reference. So skeletal mesh, I don't need object reference, just cast a skeletal mesh. And there you go, and then we set it. So whenever I do this, I'm literally just passing, I'm just telling it, hey, I can call this, remember, I can call this function anywhere at any point in time. When I switch out my equipment, whatever. Just switch it to this weapon type, and it will automatically take the information, load up the information as my weapon data from that data table. Then it will take that data, and it will use it to set the mesh here. Nothing's hard-coded, nothing. So if I wanted it later on in the game, I'm like, oh, I got this new mesh for a weapon that's super cool. I don't need to go pull up that weapon actor and blah, 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 and do all this crap. I just go into my data table, and I just set it from here. It's so easy to tweak all this stuff. You see what I'm saying? It's very, very nice. So there you go. We would switch it out, and it'll set it. So how about I will take, I'll show you how it'll automatically load it up. So check it out. If I go to my character viewport, my weapon, if I clear this, right? When I start playing the game, it'll automatically populate it because at my begin play of my character, it's running this function here. So let's try that out. Or actually, hold on, one more thing. In here, let's change this to, because I think this is just going to give us our numerator. Let's change this to string first. String. So enum to string, because we need this, it'll specifically give us a string, and then string to a name. Before I screw that up. That should work. Alright. Almost forgot that. Alright, let's go. Alright, and there's my weapon. Check it out. And you can actually see that line trace. So, it doesn't look too great, but if I run around, and again, I don't have a proper animation set up here, and the reticle, you would normally have the character rotate with the mouse. I just have a different setup right now. But if I left mouse click, you could see, and you see that sparkle? It's doing the particle effect at the muzzle. You see that? That's the sparkle particle effect that we set up. So if I go over here and I shoot just straight ahead, it doesn't quite go to the reticle because I need to have the character follow the mouse. But you can see that it is like in that direction from the muzzle. See the muzzle? And you see the sparkle effect. It's got the sparkle effect showing up because that's the data that we have it going for. So let's see if we can do damage. So I'll put another character in there, and then we'll just have it when I go to take damage, and I click on this right here. This is the interface, so that's why it's gold. Double click on that, it's my character. It'll give me this, and then let's just do a print of how much damage is being taken here. So weapon damage, take that and break it. And we're going to print the damage amount, and let's make this last for like 10 seconds, and we'll make it bright green. And again, I'm not hard coding anything. The only place that any of the actual data is coming from is specifically that data table, right? So if I go into my characters, I take this character here, and this is going to say like, this will be my enemy, right? This is the guy I'm going to shoot. So I hit play. Okay. So I have my weapon here. Again, I'll make a proper video showing how to kind of set up like a first person or a true first person shooter or something if you want, but this gets the point across. So I go up to this guy, he's my enemy. If I shoot him and I hit him, see how it says up at the top left there, clients, this is 5 damage. Right? You can see my line trace is hitting him. So now if I stop that and I go to ignore all this is from another system I'm working on. It's complaining that that character's empty. There's nobody in there. So if I go here and I go to my set weapon type, and I change that to shotgun, it should do 10 damage, right? Because if I go back here and I look, shotgun's 10 damage. We just had 5 damage, so that's the only thing I'm changing here. And then load it up. If I shoot him, see how it says 10 damage? So there you go. So if you want to, again, you can turn these line traces off. We can go to, where is it? In the master, is it master? Where did I have that? No. It's in the actual weapon, isn't it? Is it in the weapon? Where the heck did I put that? Left mouse button. It is down here. Yeah, okay. So again, this is, I have take damage, and here you could have it like, you know, you could even pass on the location if you wanted. So for take damage, if I open this up back in the interface, if I click on that, and then I add another input here, I could add impact point. I can make that a vector for location, compile and save that. And then I can go and I can take where the actual hit was. So if I open this up and I get impact point here, pass that through. Then on the character that takes the damage, if I wanted, I could spawn, like, spawn, I think it says a decal, spawn decal at location, right? And I would have like a decal, I don't have a decal currently, but this is what you would do. You would spawn decal at location, and you could store, in your struct there, where is it, in your struct here, you could store like a, damage decal. So damage, so maybe like it does a certain kind of damage, like a shotgun does a big old blast of a hole, whereas a pistol does a little hole. Or for the actor, since we don't want to actually have an actor, you would do a, I think it is a soft, is it a soft class reference? You know, I'm not super familiar with decals, but let's see. Let's go. Load class as a async. We'll do async, and then spawn D spawn. Oh, I see. Decal actor class. Then we spawn actor from class. There we go. And then you would just break that, actually. Let's just break that. And then you would spawn it at that impact point. And this will basically give you like your damage decal of whatever your decal is. I don't have any decals currently. I don't do decals a lot, honestly, but I know the basics of it, and there are various ways you can go about this, but basically this is how you soft load it, get the class, and then spawn it whenever way you want to spawn it. And that way it'll give you the location of the impact point, and then this is just loaded on there. So again, none of this is hard-coded. Nothing here is hard-coded, and the only thing that's hard-coded anywhere at all is specifically, not even hard-coded, but is specifically this data table. Everything comes from this data table. Everything. It's really, really important, because that way you can customize it so much. There's so much you could do. And you'll see how easily this is to optimize, to change, to add on to build up. So it's very useful. This is a very long video, so this is, I'm going to leave it at that. And if you want to see anything in particular after this, let me know, and we'll go from there. Bye.